So we are now moving on to the questions section of this afternoon's webinar. We have a number of questions that were submitted ahead of time. As I said, a couple of our colleagues have indicated that they are happy to have their read their question out themselves, and then in other cases I'll be reading out and letting you know. We have grouped these together into themes, and I will advise who the questions are directed to. The first questions, so if you've indicated ahead of time to Andrea and the team that you're happy to give your own question, can you make sure that you put yourself off mute? And it would be really nice if you were able to let us see your face. For our first two questions, which are on the theme of workload and come from Alan Crosby at James Gillespie's High School. The first question from Alan is to both the SQA and to the EIS. Is a basic, straightforward one. How are we supposed to manage the workload of the ACM? And from another colleague around the same area, does the panel believe that the alternative assessment model can be delivered by any teacher, particularly principal teachers, within the 35-hour working week? The layers of moderation, individual assessment, associated paperwork and verification quality assurance would consume this time without considering that the teaching and learning of all year groups needs also to continue. So not a shy one to get you started on. So who would like to get us started? Andrea?
I'll lead off on that one. Thanks, Susan. So I suppose the first thing to highlight is that the ACM was designed pre-Christmas largely, on the basis that it would come into operation after Christmas, and then of course we had the second lockdown, which was unanticipated, and we've ended up with a really kind of compressed timescale within which to do all of this. So ideally, we wouldn't have been kickstarting this process post Easter holidays. It would have been post Christmas holidays, and because we ended up in that position, one of the significant accommodations was the extension of the deadline of the submission of the provisional results. Originally, they were supposed to have been submitted at the end of May to allow a more maybe kind of like layered quality assurance process to take place at that time, but because we understood that a huge amount of time had been lost in terms of like the face-to-face learning that young people would experience because of the second lockdown, there was the move to extend the deadline to the 25th of June, and we know that doesn't entirely compensate for that lost time, but certainly 3 weeks is a long time in COVID land. Everybody knows that 3 weeks can a lot can happen in 3 weeks. From our point of view, what we've advocated is very much a collegiate approach to delivering this. I mean, there really has to be a strongly collegiate approach, kind of in the spirit that both myself and Jean have outlined in terms of what's happening nationally, but at school level, everybody has to be helping one another in order to deliver this. It's not something that teachers can deliver single-handedly or unilaterally. It's about departments pulling together. It's about cohorts of staff pulling together with the full backing of the SMT, with the full backing of the local authority, college management, if you happen to be in the FE setting. So I think that's absolutely crucial to getting, to giving things a chance of working in the first place. But then when difficulties emerge around workload, as I said in my opening, I think it's really important that people don't forget the kinds of mechanisms that we use to tackle workload under normal circumstances. So workload audits, we're relatively familiar with them. We've had to use them before in relation to actually SQA related workload issues. And we would use that data, the data that's gathered in an audit process in order to discuss with senior management or a line manager the need for either additional staff or alleviation of other duties in order that the that the priorities within the ACM can be delivered. And at this time, there really can't be additional priorities springing up, or a kind of continuation of a business as usual approach, because it is absolutely not business as usual. Even for primaries, it's not business as usual. For the BGE, it isn't business as usual, and particularly not for those who are trying to deliver the entirety of the ACM, as I said, within this very truncated time period. So all other priorities need to be stood down, and local authorities, they've been part of the discussions around all of that. So has Education Scotland, so has SQA, so have we. All the national partners are kind of coalescing around that principle. And if those discussions don't get people anywhere, then it does have to come down to conversations with the union rep, local association, branch secretary, and you would be hopeful that the intervention of reps and local secretaries might advance discussions that bit further. But if they don't, then we're in the territory of grievance and things like that. If the resources just won't materialise, or the standing down of other priorities doesn't happen, because it's not acceptable to ask teachers to work without additional payment for that, and so these are all the things that we would have to resort to in those circumstances. And of course, at national level, we're continuing to monitor the feedback from members around all of this. And as I say, like 3 weeks is a long time in COVID land, so this is not the end of the story necessarily. We've had to push around additional time already, and I wouldn't necessarily say that should be the end of the discussion around all of that. But those are the things that we would recommend in the meantime. Susan, thanks.
Thanks. Someone on behalf of SQA?
Yeah, Susan, I can come in if that would be helpful. I mean, I think I agree with a number of the points that Andrea has highlighted. I think it's absolutely fair to say that there have been some constraints on time on the basis of the issues post Christmas, and we extended the deadlines as much as possible. I think we'd all acknowledge that it means that the whole system is doing different things, and this year, and that the point about collegiality, and that the system working together, and schools and within that, schools working together to deliver on this is crucial. Under normal circumstances, you would be supporting your young people throughout the year in preparation for an SQA exam, and as I say, I appreciate that this is a more immersive experience, because you're involved in that in that ongoing assessment in what is quite a constrained time frame. When I think we've tried quite hard to acknowledge that disruption to learning and the impact that it has on teaching staff, through the modifications to assessment, to the extension of deadlines, the focus on quality, not quantity, so of evidence, and hopefully the supplementary materials and guidance that we've provided around making judgments, the understanding standards, events, etc., have been helpful in all of that too, and we're here to help as well, and I think that's important. But I think we're acknowledging, that there are workload concerns, and we've heard them, and we've done all we can to address them.